So now I'd like to address the suicide myth pushed by the establishment media, by our schools, by the medical community going along with this dangerous experiment, and by the politicians who support it or bow down to it. They all say that if we don't help children transition, if we don't immediately affirm their gender delusion, their sexual delusion that they're trapped in the wrong body, that they're going to commit suicide. So we've got to do this to save them from suicide, we are told. Well, that is complete rubbish. The most authoritative study in the world on the health effects of sex change surgery to post-operative transsexuals was a Swedish cohort study done by the very liberal, very pro-gay Swedish government. That study followed post-operative transsexuals over many years, and what they found is that those who underwent sex change surgeries had a 19.2 times higher rate of death by suicide 10 to 20 years later, post-surgery, compared to the general population. Now take that in. That's not a 19% higher rate of suicide. A 19-fold increase in suicide deaths means a 1,900% increase in suicide death associated with sex change surgeries. So by affirming a transgender identity in students, and thus encouraging puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, schools are necessarily putting many of these impressionable children, and some who are doing it as a fad, on the path to a sex change surgery later in life. We know this. Now what that means, given the statistic I mentioned from that authoritative Swedish cohort study, is that these schools will be responsible for putting children in body bags, for killing them. The schools, politicians, medical establishment that repeats this lie, this myth, will be complicit in the suicides of these children later in life, perhaps 10 to 20 years later, but nonetheless, suicide for many of them who follow the path of transgender identification, the logical conclusion of gender ideology, which is sex change surgery, when they regret the irreversible changes that they made to their body and regret them.